What if everything that has ever gone wrong in your life, every failure, every loss, every moment that broke you open, was not something to overcome, but something to love? Not to accept reluctantly, not to endure, but to embrace completely as if you had chosen it. We spend most of our lives in a quiet war with reality. Something happens that we did not want, and immediately the mind begins to resist, to push back, to wish it were different, to replay endlessly what could have been, what should have been, if only things had gone another way. This resistance does not change what happened. It only adds suffering on top of suffering. We fight the past as if we could rewrite it. We argue with the present as if our objection changes the facts. But it never does. The world simply waits while we exhaust ourselves arguing with it. The ancient Stoics had a name for a completely different way of living. They called it amor fati, a Latin phrase that means simply love of fate. Not tolerance of fate, not grudging acceptance of fate. Love, a full, willing, even grateful embrace of everything that comes. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who faced war, plague, betrayal, and the death of his own children, wrote in his private journal, "Love the things that happen to you, not because they are always easy, not because they are always good, but because they are yours and you are here to meet them." Stoicism teaches that the universe unfolds with a kind of order, that what reaches you as part of something larger. Not a divine punishment, not random cruelty, but reality arriving at your door. And the question Amor Fati asks is, will you open that door with resistance or with welcome? Friedrich Nietzsche, centuries after the Stoics, returned to this same profound idea. He said that amor fati was his formula for greatness in a human being, to want nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all of eternity. Not merely to bear what is necessary, but to love it. This is not passive resignation. This is not lying down and saying nothing matters. Amor fati is an active, fierce, almost defiant love, a decision to say yes to life, even when life has handed you something you did not ask for, something that costs you something real. So why do we resist? Why does the mind cling so stubbornly to how things should have been? Because from a very young age, we were taught that suffering is the enemy. That discomfort is always a signal to escape. That pain means something has gone wrong and that we must fix it immediately. We build a picture of how life should go. We imagine our future in careful, hopeful detail. And then life deviates from the picture, and we experience that deviation not as new information, not as an invitation, but as betrayal. As if the universe owed us the version we had imagined. Every moment you spend wishing something had gone differently is a moment you are not here, not fully present, not fully alive. The mind that says this should not have happened has stepped out of the present and into a fiction. A story about a life that never was and never will be. The Stoics called this the obstacle, but crucially not a blockage, a path. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Whatever is happening right now, however painful, is the actual terrain you are walking, not the terrain you wished for. This one." Imagine two people lose the same job on the same day. One spends months in bitterness, replaying the unfairness, resenting everyone involved. The other asks, "What does this open? What am I now free to become?" Same event, completely different experience of life. The difference is not circumstance, it is orientation. Practicing amor fati begins not with a grand gesture, but with a small pause. When something goes wrong, before the mind rushes to resist, there is a moment, just a single breath, where you can ask honestly, what is actually here right now? Not what should be here. What is actually here? In that pause, you can choose to look at what happened differently, not to pretend it didn't hurt, not to perform a gratitude you don't yet feel, but to ask genuinely, is there something in this moment I could not have received any other way? Something only this difficulty could teach me. Sometimes the practice is not a thought at all. It is a breath. When loss arrives, when disappointment settles into the chest like a stone, Amor Fati says, feel this fully. Do not run from it. The feeling is not the enemy. The feeling is part of the experience you are being given. Epictetus, who was born a slave and had no control over his circumstances, still chose this orientation. He understood something rare and powerful, that the only freedom no one can ever take from you is the freedom to choose your response. To choose love, even when love is the harder, quieter choice. When you practice Amor Fati, not perfectly, but sincerely and consistently, something begins to shift inside you. The events of your life stop feeling like things that are happening to you and start feeling like things that are happening for you. Not because the world became easier, because your relationship to it changed. You stop spending energy fighting what already is, and that energy, all of it, becomes available for something else entirely. For creating, for connecting, for going deeper into whatever this moment is actually asking of you. Resistance drains you slowly, quietly. Love restores. This is what the Stoics knew. The Stoics believed that a life lived in alignment with what is real, not in constant conflict with it, was the only truly free life. Not free from difficulty, free within it. And that inner freedom, that deep spaciousness no circumstance can collapse, is what Amor Fati slowly, quietly builds inside you. There is a crucial difference between accepting what happens and truly loving it. Acceptance says, I will tolerate this. Amor Fati says, I would choose this. That shift, from tolerating to choosing, changes everything about how you move through the world. Nietzsche asked a haunting question. Imagine your life, every moment of it, repeated eternally, exactly as it was. Would you be crushed by that thought, or would you want to live it again? Amor Fati is your answer to that question. The Stoics understood that pain is inevitable, but suffering is largely a choice. When you stop demanding that life be different, when you meet each difficulty as something meant for you, the weight you carry begins to lighten in ways you cannot predict. Think of a moment in your life you wish had never happened, a loss, a failure, a wound that still aches. Now ask yourself honestly, who would you be if that moment had been erased? Often, it is exactly those moments that made you. Amor Fati is not a single decision you make once. It is a practice, a daily return. Each morning, the world will hand you something you did not choose. The question is always the same: will you resist it, or will you receive it? You do not have to love everything perfectly. That is not the goal. The goal is to lean toward your life rather than away from it, to stop spending your energy fighting what is already here. That energy, redirected, becomes something extraordinary. When you stop resisting your life, something quietly shifts. Anger becomes energy. Grief becomes depth. Failure becomes direction. The very things you once called your worst moments become the foundation of something you could not have built any other way. Sit with this question for a moment. What are you resisting right now? What part of your current life are you pushing against, wishing it were different? That resistance, that friction you feel, is the exact place where Amor Fati asks to enter. Begin small. When something frustrates you today, traffic, a difficult conversation, an unexpected change in plans, pause before you react. Breathe. Then say, quietly or aloud, this too is part of it. This belongs. That pause is where the practice lives. The Stoics did not teach us to be without feeling. They taught us to feel fully and still choose love, to weep when there is reason to weep, and to say, even through the tears, yes, this life, exactly this, I would choose it again. Your life is not a series of things happening to you. It is a story you are living, every chapter of it, the bright ones and the dark. Amor Fati asks you to be the kind of person who loves the whole story, not someday, now.